Breaking news this morning, President Trump is giving a new defense for the U.S. strikes on Iran as more questions are being raised about how destructive the hits really were. CNN was first to report on a preliminary assessment by U.S. intelligence. According to 7 people briefed, it finds those strikes set Iran's nuclear program back, not by years, but maybe only a few months. Yet the president, who is attending the NATO summit in the Netherlands, he does not believe that. Now, slightly tweaking his language, though, saying the strikes caused virtual obliteration. Listen to this.
I don't know, but they're not going to have a bomb and they're not going to enrich. And we believe all of the stuff is down there. We don't think they had nearly the time, because to get that out is a very difficult thing. It's not like moving a package or taking this carpet up and moving it. It's very difficult. It's very dangerous to do. We believe it's all down there.
He's talking there about the enriched uranium, where there have been big questions if Iran moved large portions of enriched uranium out before the U.S. strikes. A look here is at before and after images from one of the sites in Iran, the underground Fordow nuclear facility that the U.S. dropped those massive bunker buster bombs on. You can see from the air how destructive it was. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, they were by the president's side during what became a back and forth press conference with reporters in the Netherlands. And they also spoke up about the strikes, the president leaning on both of them to give their take. Secretary Hegseth called the strikes flawless. Both he and Secretary Rubio suggested there were political motives at play for leaking the intelligence, the early assessment, this early preliminary intelligence report. Hegseth said an FBI investigation is now underway to identify the people behind the leak. Let's go now to my friend and colleague, anchor of CNN's Out Front, Aaron Burnett, who's in Ras Al Khaimah by the Strait of Hormuz in the UAE. Aaron, there already was a lot of developments that needed to be looked into after this intelligence report came out CNN reported on it last night. And then you've got this big pushback from the president this morning.
Yeah, a huge pushback, Kate, as we're hearing, in the early hours of this morning in the Netherlands, where the president is taking this on head on. Of course, we know this assessment by the Defense Intelligence Agency matches what the Israelis are also saying in their initial bomb assessment, initial being the crucial word, but still, the conclusion here cannot be ignored. We're joined by our Kristen Holmes. She's at that NATO summit in Noordwijk in the Netherlands. And Kristen, we are going to be hearing from the president shortly, and you've been hearing him take this on head on, as Kate emphasized, now adding the word virtual ahead of obliteration. Zach Cohen is also with us in Washington. But Kristen, let me begin with you, with what we're learning in these early hours of the morning so far.
Yeah, Aaron, I think what's really interesting about this is you're hearing President Trump acknowledge that this intelligence does exist, but he's saying that they're waiting for a fuller picture here. Now, in the same conversation, the same kind of press conference that ended up being a back and forth with reporters, he compared using the using the bombs on Iran as the same way the U.S. used the nuclear bomb in Japan on World War II, saying they both ended wars. And then he completely reiterated this idea that he believes that they set Iran's nuclear program back more than a decade. Take a listen.
I think basically decades, because I don't think they'll ever do it again. I just don't think they're going to do it. I think they're going to take their oil, they're going to have some missiles, and they'll have some defense. I think they've had it. I mean, they just went through hell. I think they've had it. I believe it was total obliteration. I believe they didn't have a chance to get anything out because we acted fast. If it would have taken 2 weeks, maybe, but it's very hard to remove that kind of material. Very hard and very dangerous for them to remove it. Plus, they knew we were coming. And if they know we're coming, they're not going to be down there.
Now, as Kate said, he's talking there about moving the uranium out. He's insisting that Iran never moved it out from underground before we struck those nuclear facilities. And just quickly, because we are here at NATO, we're going to see the president again. He's going to have a bilateral meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. This is going to be notable. We're going to wait to see what comes out of that. Just a reminder, Zelensky, Ukrainians had hoped to meet with President Trump at the G7, but President Trump left early. So this will be that opportunity for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Kristen, thank you so much. And now, Zach, as promised, I know that we have that breaking news on the intelligence report, the first to come out. What is your new reporting on what that leaked intelligence report says, as I know you're learning more here in these early hours?
Yeah, Aaron, it's really important to know that this is the first known U.S. intelligence assessment since those strikes on those three nuclear facilities in Iran. And while it is an early initial assessment, it comes after Donald Trump, the president, has been claiming for days that those strikes obliterated their targets. And this assessment seems to be at odds with that conclusion by the president. We're told by our sources that the assessment does say that the strikes do not appear to have destroyed key components of Iran's nuclear program that includes centrifuges and the stockpile of enriched uranium at these sites. And that's something, again, that Donald Trump has suggested unequivocally was destroyed. And now we're seeing subsequent our reporting kind of recontextualize a little bit here. But take a listen to what Donald Trump said earlier when he was asked about this intelligence assessment and our reporting on it.
Well, the intelligence was very inconclusive. The intelligence says we don't know. It could have been very severe. That's what the intelligence says. So I guess that's correct. But I think we can take the we don't know. It was very severe. It was obliteration. And you'd think that a media outlet would say, isn't that a great thing? I mean, more importantly for the pilots, for the military, you take their guts out. You take their absolute guts out. They had a tremendous attack. It was a complete obliteration.
So there are still a lot of questions, and again, this is a very early assessment, but it is a formal one from a U.S. intelligence agency, albeit one, the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is not representative of the entire intelligence community's view, but it is a specific agency that has experts who are focused on analyzing battle damage assessments like the one that's being carried out on those strikes in Iran. Ultimately, at the end of the day, though, this does point back to comments made by Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Kane, earlier this week when he said it's far too early to know what is still there and what is not.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, they admit they don't know where so much of that enriched uranium is. Some of that uranium highly enriched, and how much of it was moved possibly before the strikes or to unknown locations. So much that we don't yet know. Kristen at the NATO summit, Zach Cohen, thanks so much to both of you.
So tell me a little bit about the significance of this intel moment, because to me it seems like everything rests on this. The moves from Israel or the U.S.?
Well, everything we see from Donald Trump from day one when he took that escalator ride was, as we're talking about legislatively, big and beautiful. So we have a big, beautiful bill that's in front of the House and the Senate right now. He's talking right now about big, beautiful bombs, which is why he's talking about things like obliteration. And what we see in initial assessments may be true, may not be true, but they certainly contradict what Donald Trump has said. It's why he's angry about it. But ultimately, so much of what we do in politics and unfortunately foreign affairs is the basketball game is over. What happened and what does it mean moving forward in the next round of the playoffs? I think we need to take our time and wait and see what happened and what it means both here and obviously in Iran and in Israel.
Joel, I want to ask you about an op-ed actually written by the former Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who served under President Biden. And he was writing this, that the strike on 3 of Iran's nuclear facilities by the U.S. was unwise and unnecessary. Now that it's done, I very much hope it succeeded. Now that is a question mark in some ways,
right,
or
yes.
rather, what does it mean to succeed is a question mark. Can
Yeah,
you talk about how to think about this now?
Sure, Audie. So a couple of things. First of all, success is whether or not Iran's nuclear program has been fully set back and leads to, I believe, verifiable, strong negotiations that conclude this chapter of the Iran-U.S. Battle over the future of, frankly, these weapons of mass destruction. But for Secretary Blinken, what he was making the point is that there are high risks involved. And we're seeing it now in the discussion about the intelligence. But I do think, and I agree with Doug on this, let's wait to see what the full intelligence community assessment is. One leak from 1 out of 16 intelligence agencies is not definitive.
Say that again, one leak.
One leak out of 16 intelligence agencies is not definitive.
So you're listening for more?
I'm listening for
Do
more.
Do you trust what you hear? If the the president cast doubt on the intelligence that he's been hearing.
I trust the intelligence community's full assessment more than anything. I think that President Trump is probably continuing to make and articulate an argument that, quite frankly, makes a lot of sense. But until we have the full data, we don't know. And it's also very important to point out that we do not have full information either prior to these strikes. So to assume that there's some computer out there that's going to spit out the exact answer, that's unrealistic.